Hello, today I'm going to show you 3 easy ways to make paper flowers. For the first, you need 2 small squares of paper. These are white since I'm making a white daisy. You can use colored paper to make painted daisies. I have an outline of a daisy and I will put that on top of the other 2 pieces of paper. Now with a pair of scissors, I'm going to cut around the outline of the daisy. This not only cuts out a template, but it also gives you 2 flowers to work with. Make sure that if your paper shifts around while you're cutting, you realign them before continuing to cut. My version is not perfectly cut out. If you take your time, you can get a nice, tidy looking flower. It takes a few minutes to cut around it. Once I'm done, I will go back and recycle the scraps of paper. Once I've finished all of the cutting out, I'm going to have 2 identical flowers to work with. Again, it just takes a few minutes to get it all cut out. If you make a few mistakes, you can go back and clean them up once you're done with the initial cutting out. Now that I have 2 flowers to work with, I can layer them on top of each other to make one very densely petaled flower, or I can use each piece as a separate flower. I'm going to use pom-poms as the center for the flower. If you're artistic, you can just use colored pencils or crayons to color in your flower. I could use anywhere from 1 to 3 pom-poms for the center. 1 looks nice, but 3 looks nice as well. I tried to use a glue bottle, however it decided to clog on me, which you'll see in just a moment. There we go. The tip of the glue bottle decided to clog, so I had to put a glob of glue down. To make up for the glob of glue that I had to put down, I wound up putting 3 pom-poms on my flower. If the glue bottle had worked right, I probably would have just put 1, but I like how 3 looks anyway. And that's the first flower. The next flower is a lot of fun. Using a strip of paper that is about 1 inch wide, this is a scrap so it tapers a bit, I cut little slices about halfway through the paper. I put the cuts randomly, although fairly close together. However, if you want them to be regular, you could use a ruler. It takes a little bit of time to cut all the way down the page, so I sped up this portion a bit. Even at double the speed, it still took a little bit of time to get through all of this. Once all of the cuts are made, and again fairly close together, only halfway through, leave a little tab of paper at the very end. This is what you're going to use to tape down and finish off your flower. Okay, so I left a little tab at the end. Now, in order to start rolling, I fold over the very first section. That gives you a center to work with. And then start rolling the paper up, and this is going to be your flower. Once in a while, I hold both the top and the bottom just to make sure that it's staying relatively level, and I roll this kind of tightly. Then at the very end, you can either use glue or a piece of tape to tape down the very end. This is a pretty big piece of tape, so it kind of held the petals a little bit more in place than I would like. I would usually recommend a very small piece of tape. If you roll it too loosely, it's going to come apart. In this case, I had to cut the tape off as well. But since it's fairly tightly rolled, it's all going to hold pretty steadily. And then take a moment and flare out the edges of the petals to give the flower a pretty flared look. This has a teeny tiny little one because of how far up the tape is going. But I like how it looks. This third flower is a variation on the second. We are starting off with a strip of paper again, only this time we are going to fold it in half so that we have one long strip of paper with the fold running down the center of the strip. Just like this. It takes a few minutes to make sure that the edges are aligned. Then you are going to need to run your fingers down the fold line a few times to get the fold as tidy as you can. Once I have the paper folded the way I would like it to be, I'm going to be cutting on the folded side, not the two open ends. There we go. I'm going to make the cuts a little bit more even. I am still not cutting all the way through the paper. I'm going to leave about 1/4 of an inch or so at the very bottom. Once I have cuts down the entire length of the paper, I will begin to roll the paper up. I will start by folding the first section over and then roll it up. Again, I tap the top and bottom to keep it aligned. Once I'm done rolling it the first time, and the paper kind of knows what I want it to do, I'm going to unroll it so that I can make a looser roll. This second roll is much looser. However, it looks like there's a lot of room in between each layer. I can choose to either tighten this up or I can glue it down onto a piece of paper or cardstock to act as a base. I put down a dollop of glue. First I re-rolled it a little bit tighter because it was looking extremely loose. You'll notice that the size of my cuts helps to direct how tightly and how loosely I can roll it. Once I have it the way I want it to look, I'll put down a dollop of glue on the page and spread it around a little bit. Then I put the flower on top. The glue takes a second to come out. Spread it around a little bit. And there's the flower on top of the page. You'll notice when I let go that the end still wants to flap around a little bit. So you do need a way to tack that down. I decided, since the glue wasn't going to hold fast enough, that I was going to use a small piece of tape, and I taped down the very end of the flower, and then I started flowering out the petals. Since I used glue and just a small piece of tape, there was a lot more room for the flowers to spread out. You can take your time and adjust the petals to look however you would like them to look. If you want to trim the edges of your flower base, you can easily do so. I like how my flower looks, so I decided not to do that. These are just 3 types of paper flowers. There are dozens more, not to mention all of the creative ways these flowers can be used. Are you going to use them in a picture frame? Are you going to put them onto a card? Are you going to put magnets on the back and stick them on your fridge? Or do something that I haven't even thought of? I would love to see your paper flowers and what you choose to do with them. Share them on the Prendergast Library Facebook page or Instagram. Have a great day.